Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive right in today because we are looking at the fascinating and honestly largely hidden history of a man who lived his whole life in the shadows of a massive, growing empire. I'm talking about Fred Trump Jr. Now, obviously his younger brother went on to become a U.S. president, but Freddie's life took a vastly different, deeply tragic trajectory. His story is absolutely crucial to understanding the underlying dynamics of one of the most prominent real estate empires in American history. So using the heavily documented historical records we have available, we are going to objectively explore exactly how his life unfolded.
Section 1. A Pivotal Demolition Party. September 21st, 1966.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the central historical mystery it poses. You see, to truly understand Freddie's life, we have to start on a rainy day in 1966 at a demolition party at Coney Island Steeplechase Park. This was a massive real estate project that Freddie was put in charge of, but it completely tanked. And as a result, he was publicly scapegoated by his father. So it begs the question, did this humiliating public debacle actually cause his downfall? Or was his downward spiral already well underway? By relying strictly on biographers and family memoirs, we can impartially piece together the answer.
Section 2. The Reluctant Heir. The Weight of Expectation.
Okay, let's step back a bit to 1938, when Freddie was born. He was the eldest son of an incredibly austere billionaire real estate magnate who demanded a ruthless successor to take over the empire. But Freddie, he just didn't fit that mold. At the time, mid-century East Coast society was dominated by this high-status, exclusive WASP culture, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant culture, that his father highly valued. But Freddie actively rebelled against all that upper-class snobbery. He chose Lehigh University instead of Wharton. He joined a Jewish fraternity, Sigma Alpha Mu, rather than a traditional WASP one. He was just this affable, friendly guy who actively avoided trading on his famous family name.
Section 3. Chauffeur in the Sky. The Rebellion. Take a look at this slide because it brilliantly illustrates the immense psychological pressure Freddie was facing at the time. In 1964, Freddie made his ultimate departure from the family path. He went after his glamorous dream and actually successfully trained to become a professional pilot for TWA alongside his new wife, Linda. But the reaction from his father? Chauffeur in the Sky. That was Fred Sr.'s devastating, belittling reaction. Instead of pride in his son's achievement, Freddie faced constant daily ridicule for abandoning real estate to fly planes.
Section 4. The Rise of Donald. The Replacement.
You can see the stark differences we've laid out here. Eventually, the intense stress and heavy drinking cost Freddie his prestigious pilot job. Humiliated, he capitulated. He went back to the family business, but just as a mere handyman and rent collector. And this demotion effectively opened the door for a new heir. On one side, you have Freddie, the affable Lehigh grad who just wanted to fly. On the other, his younger brother Donald, the highly ambitious Wharton grad who eagerly embraced the real estate empire. Donald actually later admitted that he subconsciously watched his older brother's mistakes, purposefully avoiding those pitfalls in order to survive that fiercely competitive family environment.
Section 5. A Tragic Decline. The Fall.
As Donald ascended into the high-stakes Manhattan real estate market, Freddie's sense of self-worth absolutely plummeted. And if you follow this timeline, you'll see how quickly everything unraveled. In '64, he's living his dream as a TWA pilot. Just 2 years later, in '66, the steeplechase disaster ruins his standing. By '68, Donald graduates and enters the business full-time. And by 1970, after years of heavy drinking and a truly frightening domestic incident involving a rifle, Freddie and Linda divorced. In just 6 years, his dream career and his marriage were completely gone.
What followed was an incredibly bleak decade. Freddie experienced profound isolation, failing health, and severe alcoholism. It got to the point where he moved back into his parents' house to sleep on a small cot in the attic. Then, in September 1981, this tragic trajectory came to a sudden close. Freddie suffered a massive, fatal heart attack. He was only 42 years old.
Section 6. The Bitter Aftermath. The Echoes.
Freddie's tragic death cast a very long fractured shadow over his children, Fred C. and Mary. And this really exploded nearly 2 decades later when the family patriarch, Fred Sr., died in 1999. According to the memoirs written by Freddie's children, their grandfather's will effectively cut them entirely out of the primary billionaire inheritance. When they challenged this in court, the alleged retaliation from the family was incredibly harsh. Most notably, they abruptly halted company-provided medical insurance for Fred C.'s sick infant, who actually required round-the-clock care at the time. This sparked decades of bitter, ongoing legal battles.
So,
The crucial point here is that all of this bitter litigation eventually led to a settlement. In 2001, Mary Trump signed an agreement to settle her claim for $2.7 million. Now, to most of us, that is undeniably a massive windfall. But to put that into perspective, in the context of this specific real estate empire, it was a microscopic fraction of the massive fortune her father was originally meant to inherit.
So what does this all mean? When you look at the totality of this story, we're left with a highly complex question. Was Fred Trump Jr. ultimately a victim of an intensely dysfunctional and overbearing family dynamic? Or was he responsible for his own demise through his personal choices and those devastating struggles with addiction? It's a heavy question, and as you weigh these historical accounts, I hope this explainer helped provide some clarity on a deeply complicated life. Thanks so much for joining me, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.